Am I the a-hole for not treating or considering my step-grandkids as my grandkids? I am 43 male and I have 4 children, 24 female, 23 male, 20 male and 18 female. This concerns my oldest daughter and for privacy's sake, we will call her Kayla. Kayla finished her college a year and a half ago and found a job at a rather reputable company close to where we live weeks after. At that job, she met a man who we will call Jake. Jake is 30 years old and her direct superior. I was of the opinion their relationship was not the best idea for those reasons, but they have been together for over a year. The issue is that Jake has 2 kids from a previous relationship. They are 7 and 6 years old and they were recently introduced to me and my wife. Because Kayla and Jake have been together for so long, it only makes sense. We were nice when we met them and it all went fine. It is also pretty important to point out that our oldest son had a daughter last year, so we are over the moon about that. Since we got along well with Jake's kids, Jake and Kayla took this as some sort of reason for putting us in the grandparents' role as Jake's ex and her family are not in the picture and Jake lost his parents as a kid. So, we have since been constantly asked to watch Jake's kids, which we have declined to do. We do not feel comfortable, and whenever they come over, they have the kids in tow. While we are not opposed to bringing them along, we also both do not consider them our grandkids since they aren't. I mean, they are our daughter's boyfriend's kids that we met a couple of times, not sure what they expect here. Crap hit the fan last Sunday as we opened a bank account for our granddaughter's college fund as it was her first birthday, and we deposited $2,000 in it with the aim to add some money to it every month until she graduates high school. We want to do the same for all future grandkids. Jake and Kayla asked me if we opened an account for Jake's kids too. I was surprised by the question and said no. They asked if I would on their birthdays, and I said no, adding that I didn't even know their birthdays. A huge argument with lots of screaming ensued where I was forced to tell them both to leave because it got very heated. This was 2 weeks ago and Kayla has not reached out since. We are really close, so this is very weird to say the least, and I have been doubting what I said more and more. I was wondering if we are missing something and if we are the a-holes in this situation. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, the entitlement here is off the charts. Jake and Kayla aren't even married, so they aren't even her stepkids, let alone her step-grandkids. If and when they get married, then you may have to reevaluate this. But for now, it would be super weird to be expected to open accounts for kids of your daughter's boyfriend. I just think the entire concept is weird, and I am not sure how I am supposed to feel the same about them as I do my granddaughter. Obviously, I am not rejecting or trying to exclude them, but Jake's kids are not my grandkids. Not the a-hole. They are not married. These are not even her stepchildren. What a crazy idea. And if they break up, what happens? Even if they did get married, you are free to do with your money what you want. That is why it feels awkward even if they were married. I doubt I'd feel the same as I do with my son's daughter about kids I have no relation to. Not the a-hole. If they were married and the kids been in your life for years, it would be different, but these are just your daughter's boyfriend kids that you just recently met. The fact that Jake was a part of the argument is concerning, because at least Kayla looks at it as not being fair because her brother got money. But Jake is upset that his girlfriend's parents aren't giving money to his kids, is ridiculous. Yeah, I am not happy about Jake forcing himself into the argument either. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my boys on a picnic after my sister lied about her child-free wedding? I, 32, married Paul, 39, 14 months ago. I have 2 stepsons that I adore so much. They're 7 and 11. My family are fine with Paul, but aren't involved with the kids much. Although they treat them well, they don't show affection or love. I've stopped attending family gatherings because I've been told to not bring the boys with me, which is unacceptable to me and very disrespectful. My family tried to look for excuses to justify their behavior of trying to leave my boys out of family functions. But last month, they invited us all to dinner and it went fine. Paul was shocked but happy that my family finally worked out the issue and slowly started including the boys. Last week was my sister's wedding. She sent me an invitation before, then told me they're having a small celebration with no kids. A child-free type of celebration. Once my brother confirmed he was coming with his wife and leaving the kids home, I thought that I could go since the no kids rule was for the entire family. That is until my cousin called me the night before the wedding. She's a relative and she doesn't know exactly what's going on with my family, and she's been good to Paul and the boys. She started talking about the wedding and said that she'd be bringing her kids. I was confused. I asked about the no kids rule, and she said that everyone was allowed to bring kids. I checked with my brother's wife, and she said she was allowed to bring kids and had no idea why I asked. So, I confronted my sister. She said she lied so I won't bring the boys, and that it was mom's idea and couldn't think of a better idea because they didn't want my boys there. I yelled at them both and told them I'm not coming if my boys aren't. The day of the wedding, we packed our bags and went on a picnic since the weather was nicer and warmer. The boys had a great time and Paul as well. In the evening, I got a ton of calls and nasty texts from mom and my dad and brother, for not coming to support my sister and that I made a joke out of them and guests were looking for me and I let them and my sister down as her older sister. My sister was upset that I missed her wedding, and called me awful for being inconsiderate of her feelings. To add, the boys are well behaved. Our oldest is incredibly responsible and helpful. Our youngest has already bonded with my cousin's son who's 9. I've talked to Paul and he said it's up to me whether I still want to be in contact with my family, but he won't be letting the boys be treated like this anymore. I understand how he felt. I feel terrible too. Yes, my family aren't supportive of me having stepkids, and said that I was quick to make a decision because of Paul, but it's not true. Like I said, I just couldn't imagine what Paul would have felt seeing others bringing their kids except for us. Not the a-hole. I am proud of you for putting your children first. You get the Stepmom of the Year award from me. And if anyone asks why she wasn't at the wedding, she should make sure they know that her young stepsons were excluded, so she stayed away to be with them. Not the a-hole. Your children don't have to come out of you to be your children. It doesn't matter if they are adopted, step or by blood. Your family decided to exclude them and then lie to you about excluding them. Enabling them would massively hurt your children in the long term, so you absolutely did the right thing. You will have to endure your family harassing you though, because we'll probably never accept the consequences of their actions and blame you for sticking to your children. Not the a-hole at all. The fact that she lied to you about it tells you all you need to know. She didn't have the guts to stand up for her awful treatment of your family, so instead she lied to try and avoid having to defend her terrible treatment of you. You not going to the wedding after how they treated you is not unfair at all, and the fact that they're offended just reeks of narcissism. So sorry OP. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that it's not her money? I, 33 female, and my husband, Bill, 34 male, eloped the day after our college graduation. We had only been dating for about a year and a half then, and I had only spoken to his family over the phone. We were young and dumb, but this isn't a decision I regret. 2 weeks after, we went to his hometown to break the news to his family. I learned that Bill's family is very wealthy. I presumed he was upper middle class, but what I found was a family within the 10%. His family was welcoming at first, but things expectedly took a turn when they found out we had eloped. My mother-in-law has some choice words about me being a gold digger, and why I should have signed a prenup before. She tried to get me to sign a postnup, and when I refused, she became belligerent and told me to leave their house. Bill supported me through all of this and left with me. I told Bill that we couldn't continue to be together if he had plans to accept any kind of financial support from his family. He agreed with me, and said they most likely are going to cut him off anyways. That was roughly 11 years ago. We are now both established in our careers and have a 6-year-old daughter. When our daughter was around 3 years old, Bill's family started making an effort to include us as part of their family. I didn't want to deprive my child of an extended family presence since both my parents died when I was young, so I tried to be welcoming of them, but I kept my guard up. My mother-in-law, however, has this belief that I'm still a gold digger and rely solely on my husband. She makes comments about everything, from the clothes I wear to the food I eat. They had a potluck Christmas dinner and I decided to drop off fried red fish to my mother-in-law. She tried it and made a comment that it was good but unhealthy because it was deep fried. I corrected her that it was air fried and that I own an air fryer. She went on a rant about how air fryers are expensive and that Bill needs to save up his money for our child because of my ridiculous rule to not accept financial help from them. I told her that I make my own money and I use my money to buy what I want, and since it's not her money, she need to get off her high horse. She said it's her son's money so she get a say. I pointed out to her that I make more than her son, and even if it was his, it's still not her money so she doesn't get to dictate it. I haven't spoken to her since Christmas and my daughter keep asking about her. My husband wants me to apologize to keep the peace, but I feel like I've had enough of this woman. Now for the top comments. By not keeping the peace, you are depriving your daughter of a toxic person, not a doting grandmother. Not the a-hole. You're teaching your daughter some powerful lessons. Good on you OP. I think OP is completely right to not apologize. But are we sure the daughter even knows? She's only be a kid and some adults do tend to be a-holes out of earshot of kids. I would hate it if the daughter somehow got to hear a twisted or oversimplified story like, "Mommy hates grandma and that's why we can't play anymore." I want to make sure daughter knows grandma isn't always nice, and you don't have to put up with this kind of people. But, isn't this along the lines of craps talking exes to the kids? Don't they say to not crap talk per se, but explain things like mommy and grandma disagree / had a fight / she misunderstands kind of way? Crap talking isn't telling the truth. You can inform kids in a kid-friendly, non-inflammatory way, and it's not crap talking. Honey, we aren't visiting grandma right now because she's in timeout. She wasn't kind to mommy, and you know it's important to be kind to others, right? Sometimes grown-ups break the rules, too. And it doesn't make it okay just because they're grown-ups. Does that make sense? That young, everything is an opportunity for a lesson. This is a great one to teach boundaries and kindness, even when a person is a loved one, adult, or an authority figure. Not the a-hole. If your husband feels like forcing someone to apologize, he needs to be calling his mother and forcing her to apologize to you. Your husband doesn't seem to understand that an insult to you is an insult to the dignity of his personal nuclear family. This is a very common problem where couples don't realize that they and their children together form a separate entity which has a status of its own in society, and must be protected like personal reputation. Edit: I went to sleep after posting this and I've been trying to read everything all day. To answer a few questions, I do not know their exact net worth, but if I was to estimate, it will be more than $50 million US, so maybe not 10%, but I'm not an economist lol. My husband's great-grandfather started their real estate company, and it's been in their family since. Mother-in-law came from a wealthy family as well, and the wife of my brother-in-law had to sign a prenup. As far as the air fryer goes, I won't be surprised if she didn't know the price. Mine was like $60. They have a live-in chef. Regardless, she has tendency to complain about everything I do, and this is not the first time she has made comments like this. I spoke to Bill this morning and told him that I'd like to go no contact with his mom for the foreseeable future. Our daughter can have a relationship with her, but he has to coordinate it. I also plan on talking to my daughter about what's going on between her grandmother and I, not the full details, but something along the lines of us needing a timeout from one another as suggested by one of the comments. Thank you all so much. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting anything to do with my highly disabled secret brother? I, 21 mil, thought until I was 15 years old, that the only sibling I had was my twin sister. In that year, my parents thought we were old enough to learn about my older brother, then 18 male, now 24. This guy has a serious neurocognitive disorder, to the point of being absolutely dependent, hence, the reason he has spent most of his life in care facilities. My parents have been present in his life, paying for his care in good places and visiting him regularly, but they never included him on our family's daily lives, didn't brought him home for holidays or spoke about him very much. My extended family knows he exists, but I am sure they don't know his name. Back then, it was shocking, but my parents never forced us to interact with him, and in my case, I kind of shrugged it off. Never wanted an extra brother, and for me, he was a stranger. On the other hand, my sister decided to create a relationship with him, joining my parents' visits. Apart from that, it's hard to speak about other kind of bond. This year, my father had a health scare. He is fine now, but as you can guess, he is thinking about possible scenarios. That includes, who would take care of my brothers if he and mom die? The quick answer is me and my sister, but I told them that, as far as I am concerned, my brother doesn't exist. If the circumstances came where I was the last resource, I would just let him slip into our country's social care programs. Which, being honest, are kind of bad. For you to understand better, even with the mental state he has, among other issues, he is otherwise healthy, and is expected to live well into his 40s, even if his psychological age is the one of a 3 years old. His current care is highly expensive, and I don't want to have that kind of economic burden in my life because of someone I have seen, without exaggerating, 3 times. Curiously, my parents understood and told me they are trying to leave him a lot of savings, hoping that at least I could deal with all the administrative burden. If the money ends before he dies, they don't expect my help. I accepted that. Who is really mad, is my sister. As I told you before, she chose to be involved, and unlike me, is unable to think about letting him die in some government hospital. Nevertheless, she knows that the economic impact would be tremendous, and thinks that if the need came, I am obligated to help her 50-50. She also resents the fact that I just don't care or love our brother in any way or form, even after years of her trying to guilt-trip me on being there for him. Obviously, we are all dealing on hypotheticals. I hope my parents don't die in the close future, but it all has left a dense aura in our home. The answer may be obvious, but I am curious if, considering the only thing I share with this guy is the DNA, I am the a-hole for not wanting to take care of him. Not the a-hole. Your parents are major a-holes though. Your brother should have been part of your lives. Your sister is angry at you for something your parents did, keeping you and her separate from your brother. Also, and most significantly, your parents should have been planning much sooner for funding for health care for your brother for his remaining years. How would your sister feel if your parents willed their estate to be liquidated and put into a fund to support your brother? Because practically that's probably what they'll have to do. Karma sucks. Not the a-hole. A sad situation. The only a-holes are your parents for keeping him a secret for so long. It makes sense that you were not bonded with him. They sprung your secret brother on you 15 years into your life. I also understand why your sister is upset, but she should really be upset at your parents and not you. It is not your fault that you do not feel it is your obligation to take on the financial/mental burden of caretaking for him. It is your parents' fault for making your own brother a stranger. That's bizarre that your parents kept him secret. That's the sort of thing that I would expect to have happened decades ago. What prompted your parents to reveal him when you were a teenager, and why did they keep him secret? Also, I'm assuming that if your parents passed tomorrow that you would have no way of contributing to his care anyway? I can't imagine many 21-year-olds could. What makes your sister think she can afford it? Happens more than you think with very severely disabled children who need round-the-clock care. And that's it for this video guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the